Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense. It's the show where me and John talk about pro wrestling, whether or not it makes sense. And a lot of the time, it doesn't. Now, the thing about pro wrestling is that it's always, they always say it's a larger than life kind of experience. The wrestlers themselves are not necessarily acting because you don't want to just totally give away all kayfabe completely, but they have to have some level of, they can talk and convey emotions in some manner. And because of that, there seems to be a large percentage of wrestlers who have gone from wrestling into Hollywood, into the movies, the moving picture, the talkies.
That's what they call them.
Exactly. So I get that's what we're going to talk about today. Some wrestlers and some moving pictures. It's funny, whenever I said there's a high percentage of wrestlers that have gone into the movies, as soon as I said that, I'm like, if you look at the percentage of total wrestlers and total wrestlers who went into the films, it's actually probably a really low percentage.
Yeah, I was going to call you out on that. But that's the shocking thing, though, because like you think about wrestling and like the wrestlers that everyone kind of gets drawn to, almost entirely like the really charismatic wrestlers, the one who like ooze personality and stuff like that. So you'd think it'd be a pretty easy sort of transition from wrestling into acting, but I guess it's not as easy as it looks.
Well, you say that, but let's think about the Attitude Era for a moment. When wrestling was arguably at its peak viewership, maybe not necessarily peak equality, but probably peak viewership, right? Like 8 million, 9 million people. Now you think about all the stars at that point. You've got The Rock, Triple H, Steve Austin. Those three guys have been in films.
Yeah.
Triple H was in
various
Blade.
degrees, anyway.
Yeah, was it Blade 3?
Yeah, Blade Trinity.
Yes, the best of the Blades.
Yep,
that correct. The Rock, he's been in a couple of films. I don't know what films he's been in. Jumanji.
Something or other.
Yeah. Oh, the Scorpion King.
Yeah, I mean,
he was in.
Yeah, he's been in everything.
The Tooth Fairy. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, we don't talk about that one.
I don't hate that film.
Actually, yeah, saying that, Stephen Merchant's quite funny in that as well.
Yeah, like parts of it are really funny, but then the problem with it is the rest of it doesn't make a lick of sense.
No,
like it's such a stupid premise for a film. It's weird that it's funny, but also really stupid.
Yeah, I think The Rock's changed his agent since then.
Yeah, I would hope so. Seems to be doing much better for himself these days, doesn't
he? Yeah.
So back in the Tooth Fairy days, it was hard for The Rock to get a starring role in a film, and now it's hard for The Rock to not be starring in a film.
I'd argue he's the biggest star in Hollywood right now.
Right? Isn't he like the highest paid, or wasn't he? I don't know if that's still true today, but he was like the highest paid celebrity at some point. Which is ridiculous because he made a shit ton of money in wrestling, let me tell you. And now he's making shit ton of money in the movies. Is there anything that man can't do?
No, I think he's pretty much, he can do whatever he wants to do, which may even include running for president one day, but we'll have to wait and see.
He has said he doesn't really care about that.
Yeah,
that's what they say. Boris Johnson said he wasn't going to be prime minister either. And he fucked that up. That's a whole other podcast. So The Rock's done pretty well for himself. Steve Austin, of course, well known for being one of the more popular people in the Attitude Era. He wasn't able to find the same level of success in the films.
No, I think he struggled with the whole acting thing, like just remembering lines and stuff like that. And that's understandable. It's not for everyone, I guess. And like when he was wrestling, he was obviously speaking off the cuff and essentially just playing an exaggerated version of himself. So that natural charisma just kind of flowed out of him. Whereas, when you're acting across from someone and hitting cues and all that kind of stuff, it's not the same thing, really.
That's a good point. In that, if you look at the wrestlers nowadays who are working on bullet points or working off scripts or whatever, compared to the wrestlers from the Attitude Era who were pretty much just off the cuff, just like given a vague outline of what to say and then they said it. You feel like those guys would be better in a film than the guys of today. A lot of the guys today, you'd be like, I don't know. Because even when they're reading shit off a script or whatever, it still seems kind of wooden, a bit phony,
Yeah, but I think some of that's down to the writing as much as the acting, because the people writing the scripts of WWE don't tend to.
I would disagree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Right, you look at the guys in the Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I think those three guys are charismatic enough to pull off pretty much anything that they were given. Right.
Now, in the Shield, they were, yeah.
They weren't always given great stuff to work with, but even individually, they were given some crap. We all know Roman Reigns was given some crap, but he delivered it pretty well.
I'd still say he was given a lot of crap, which no one could have done a good job with, really. But
yeah, but like I feel like he did a pretty good job with that. Seth Rollins usually sounds pretty natural. Moxley sounded pretty natural, and even Moxley said many a time that some of the crap that the WWE give him, he wasn't best pleased with.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on the person, but would you buy any of those guys in a film as a leading man?
I don't know. I think maybe Ambrose has got that, or Moxley, I should say, who's got that sort of natural charisma where you can buy him as like a real human being. Whereas I think Seth Rollins is a bit more exaggerated in his delivery and everything. So I'm not sure he would work in like a movie environment. And Roman Reigns, I mean, it depends. Like if it was a role that sort of played to his strengths, maybe, but like I don't know. He's so sort of almost like soft spoken and very deliberate in the way he kind of delivers his promos. That style works for him, but it's not necessarily a style which is going to be exciting to watch on a movie or anything like that.
I think it depends on the film, probably.
Yeah.
He couldn't do everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's something they could do, because like realistically, I feel like given how many wrestlers that we mentioned and are going to mention, we've got plenty more to mention, have kind of moved on to acting. It's like if you look at the landscape of professional wrestling now, and look at the wrestlers that are big now, like how many of them would you want to see in Hollywood? Could you buy in Hollywood? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you look at The Rock, you're like, fair enough. Like that fucker could talk. He looks great. I could buy that.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's like, I really want to see The Miz in a film. Even though he's been in films.
I was gonna say, you say that he's been in like 1,000,001 Marine movies.
Yeah, and they were all great.
I'll take your word from that because I haven't seen any of them.
I mean, this is gonna surprise you. I also haven't seen any of them. And not because they weren't quality, but because The Miz was in them.
Mm-hmm.
I seen the first Marine.
Yeah, I think I remember watching that.
With John Cena in it?
Yeah.
John Cena, there is a guy, he's a bit of an enigma when it comes to the Hollywood business.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who decried The Rock for going to Hollywood, and then he was like, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
With mixed success.
I mean,
I don't think he's been terrible, but also he hasn't really like set the world on fire.
I think he's starting to a little bit though, between being in the latest Fast and Furious movie.
Oh, for God's sake. What number is that now?
That was number 9, I believe. But he was also really good in the Suicide Squad as well, which has already got like a spin-off series coming, all about his character, the Peacemaker. And yeah, I mean, like he's been in like quite a few movies over the last few years, where it's like you can see his star like slowly starting to rise, kind of like The Rock did when he first went to Hollywood, and he wasn't in, the best of movies necessarily to begin with, but it was all about kind of getting his reps in and becoming a better actor, and obviously it paid off in the end. So I wouldn't say he's seen as like, hit a wall or disappointed or anything. I think he's still in that like sort of discovery phase where he's just still figuring himself out as an actor.
Yeah, he's in like the Tooth Fairy era.
Yeah, exactly.
He's about to cocoon out of it and butterfly into some major films.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the Suicide Squad either.
it's good. I definitely recommend that one.
Oh, okay. See, I'm really bad when it comes to like seeing films.
Mm.
Everybody's seen all these films. I'm like, I've seen 5 films. Very few of them. One of them is Blade Trinity, apparently. So
Oh dear.
it tells you about my taste in films is questionable at best. Okay, let's go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about some of the guys from the Attitude Era. We glossed over the Miz. We're not gonna talk about him anymore. Let's go back to the Attitude Era for a moment. We hit some like the 3 big guys. Triple H doesn't really get a look in, but he didn't do a whole lot. He's a busy man. Like we said, he was holding up Raw for so long.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about that. But what about the Big Show?
Yeah, the Big Show.
Remember the Big Show in Waterboy?
Yeah, it was only like I don't know, like a minute long cameo appearance really in the movie, but
It was
it was,
memorable though.
yeah, absolutely memorable.
So memorable that AEW decided to trademark the character name from this 30-year-old film.
Yep.
Why?
Which
You'll
they've
have to
done
find out.
nothing with.
No. Well, that long-term booking, my friend.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
AEW, they don't just reveal their hand right off the bat. It'll take 7 years for this to unravel. This mind-bendingly perfect storyline.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of it, you're like, wow, the twists and turns they took to give us Captain Encino or whatever the fuck. What was that his name?
Yep.
Yeah. It's gonna be. It'll blow you away if it hasn't already. Trust me.
I mean, the Captain Insano character for that minute he was on screen was basically just Hulk Hogan anyway, so it's not exactly like a revolutionary character.
Now there's a guy we should be talking about. Hulk Hogan.
Mm.
Santa with muscles. This guy. He was the true pioneer when it came to going into Hollywood.
Yeah, it's funny because he was actually he got his big break in Rocky 3 as Thunderlips before
It's just
he
a terrible name.
yeah, well, it was a terrible character. He was like walking to the ring with his scantily clad love slaves, as he called them,
Oh,
and
God's
like
sake.
he kept calling Rocky a meatball as well, which that could
Classic.
be a bit of a racial slur there, maybe.
This is classic Hulk Hogan banter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I bet he wrote that into the script himself.
Yeah.
What if I call him a meatball? It'll be hilarious.
I mean, he's one of those guys like The Rock who obviously had loads of charisma in the ring and like a big connection with audiences and stuff. And you'd think that it would be a slam dunk him moving into the movies, but I mean, it never really worked out for him.
No, he was forever stuck in the Tooth Fairy phase.
Yes.
I think he just got like wave after wave of shitty films. Fun story. Well, I say fun. It's not at all fun or interesting. But Rocky 3 is the only Rocky film I haven't seen.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
It's one of the best ones.
Well, Rocky 1, Rocky 4, they're the best ones.
That's fair enough.
Rocky 5, not so good.
No, although apparently they've just re-released a Sylvester Stallone cut of that where they cut out the robot in it and try and make it more serious.
But the robot was half the fun. Like, no, I dislike the idea of making Rocky 4 a serious film because the reason Rocky 4 is so good is because it's so batshit insane. It's just like Rocky. The first Rocky is such a surprisingly down to earth, wonderful human film about a man, right? And Rocky 4 is none of that. Rocky 4 is the exact opposite of that. It's huge and bombastic and jingoistic and just fucking in the middle of a Cold War, just balls to the wall mental.
Yes.
It's insane. It's brilliant. You know, I love Rocky 4. Rocky 5 was the bad part.
Yeah.
Rocky 5 is no good. So yeah, the only one I haven't seen is the one with Hulk Hogan in it. I don't think that was on purpose.
Yeah, you should rectify that at some point.
Probably, because I do like watching the Rocky films. I think they're really, really good. So we could say Rocky 3, probably the best film Hulk Hogan's been in.
Well, I mean, when the competition is stuff like Suburban Commando and Mr. Nanny.
Mr. Nanny.
I mean, jeez.
Wasn't he in like Three Ninjas?
High Noon at Mega Mountain or something like that.
Yes, my friend brought me that DVD one year for my birthday. He was like, "It had Hulk Hogan on it. I thought you'd like it." You're like, Although I think he's like, Hulk Hogan's a terrible actor. He was in Thunder in Paradise.
Yeah, he had like a TV series that ran for years, didn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, but like I thought that went for ages.
I thought so as well.
I think it really only went for like 2 seasons.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I have to double check that. Because when you're a kid, you're like, boy, this is on all the time. Thunder in Paradise is on all the time. But I don't think it went on for that long, really. And he had a lot of like his friends that would cameo in it, because that's Hulk Hogan. He looks after his friends.
Yeah.
You know, hey brother, have we got room for Brutus the Barber Beefcake in this episode?
Yeah.
I think so. You know.
That's funny because he did that in the movies to a certain extent as well. Like Mr. Nanny, he plays like traumatized ex-wrestler who ends up as like a bodyguard / nanny to a like tech company CEO. But he keeps having all these flashbacks to his time in the ring, and you see him in matches with like Afa and Brutus the Barber Beefcake and George the Animal Steel and Jim Neidhart, I think, was in there, and Kamala as well. It's like, yeah, like he had like a lot of crossover in his movies, because obviously in Suburban Commando as well, that's where the Undertaker had a small cameo as one of the like bounty hunters or something that was like trying to capture his character, and he had like a really high voice for some reason, and
that's what he sounds like. It's what the Undertaker really sounds like.
Oh, he's just been putting on an act all these years.
You gotta rest in peace. Undertaker. Well, that's good, because I was going to talk about some of those Attitude Era. You know, we mentioned The Rock and Stone Cold and Triple H, The Big Show, and you know, Kane has done, what was it, the See No Evil film?
Mm-hmm. May 19th. Don't bring that up.
Yeah. Oh boy, classic stuff all around. He hasn't really done a whole lot of other stuff outside of that.
No, I think
still, you know, that's something.
it.
Yeah. But The Undertaker didn't really seem to do a whole lot of that dicking around in Hollywood stuff.
No, because I guess he wanted to protect his character. It's the same sort of reason why he wouldn't really do interviews for, you know, most of the last 30 odd years as well.
Yeah, now you can't shut that fucking guy up.
Yeah, exactly. He's had all this stuff he's wanted to let out for so long, and now he's finally getting to do it.
He's like, all the wrestlers are snowflakes. Oh my god, I feel so much better. You know, like how weird is it that he's like, I gotta, you know, like he was the only one that was fucking keeping the gimmick alive, and even the Undertaker was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
You know, I'll do some shitty interview with some dick on YouTube. It could have been us, Undertaker. Although we could not offer the Undertaker any money whatsoever.
No.
I imagine he's the kind of guy that would be like, you know, thousands and thousands of pounds. He'd be like, we could buy you chicken.
Yeah. It'd have to be a very small chicken.
Well, like a KFC thing.
Yeah, like not a actual meal, just like the you know,
like a box of popcorn chicken.
Yeah, that'll do.
I think we could afford that. If we combine our earnings, we could buy a box of popcorn. Like not the big one.
No.
Have you seen how small those fucking boxes are sometimes?
Yeah,
You're like, what? I paid money for this?
yeah.
There's like 3 popcorns in here. Fuck you, KFC. Although it's really good. Like that's how they get you.
Hmm.
Just delicious. And they're like, well, you're gonna come back for more. God damn. Anyway, so The Undertaker didn't do a whole lot of films.
No.
Who I feel like if there's somebody else from that era. Kurt Angle didn't really. He was in something, wasn't he?
He has wrestled. He
He's
has,
wrestled, yeah.
yeah. He's been in a few movies, but like I think they've all been pretty low budget, kind of directed DVD star movies, really. So he doesn't have a whole lot to be proud of. Stuff like
Yeah.
Wrestlers versus Zombies, I think, was one of them. I think he might have been in one of the Sharknado movies as well, as
Yeesh.
like a fire chief or something like that. Who you basically, yeah, he gets eaten by a shark. Spoiler alert. But then most people do in those movies, so
Yeah, it was bound to happen, right?
yeah.
It was either eaten by a shark or blown away by a tornado. Or eaten by a shark, blown away in the tornado. Which
Yeah,
happens.
there you go.
That happens. That actually happens. As if people are surprised about a fucking film called Sharknado.
I'll tell you someone who I did see in a movie fairly recently was Chris Jericho in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Oh, was that any good?
It was all right. It wasn't.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it depends on how much of a thing you have for Jay and Silent Bob and that whole View Askew universe or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But he only had like a brief appearance as like I think the head of the KKK or the local chapter of it. And he was pretty entertaining in it.
He was incredibly convincing as the head of the KKK.
Yeah, it was really good acting, I thought.
Wow, how does he do it? Sometimes people draw from like personal experience. Be able to get that raw emotion out there, but he seemed to play a white supremacist fucking really well. Unbelievable. Well, I say this, I haven't seen the fucking film. I really like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, right? But not enough to want to see a sequel because I'm like, I feel like the first one did pretty much all it needed to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you get it. Even the first one, you're like, it goes on, they probably dragged it out a little bit too far. Even like Clerks is brilliant. We all know this.
Yeah, Clerks 2 is fantastic as well.
Clerks 2 is really funny, but it's a totally different film.
Yeah.
It's so, I'm a little worried about his insistence on continuing to like make these films when you're like, do you need to? Do the Walrus run again. Everybody loved that, right? No?
It was interesting.
That's the most polite way to say that it sucked ass.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, so Chris Jericho is another guy you would think like he's got kind of presence to him. You'd think he'd be in films more.
Yeah, I guess he did have some crossover appeal because he was like a game show host for one season of, I think it's called Downfall or something like that. But yeah, like I say, it was only one season long, and that should tell you all you need to know about how successful it was. But
also, the name of it was Downfall.
Yeah. Well, I think it was. I'm just going off memory there.
Yeah, but like it doesn't sound like it's going to be one of those quality game shows.
No, not like, The Weakest Link or something.
Oh boy. Have you seen the Weakest Link one where it's like all the wrestlers?
Yeah, I think they did a few of those.
Yeah, yeah. So there you go. Jericho, you could have been the Weakest Link woman.
Anne Robinson.
Anne Robinson. I couldn't remember her fucking name for a moment. She is like Countdown now, right?
Yeah.
What a weird What a weird life that is. Those
She's
TV shows aren't the same at
really
all.
wooden as well.
Yeah, she's a weird character. He's like, yeah, but then to be fair, nobody's expecting her to be fucking doing a song and dance number and crying comedy.
That's fair enough.
I think she can get away with that. So those are some starring roles that we've talked about. I think another big one that we haven't really covered is Batista.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy I think that surprised a lot of people with
Yeah.
how good he was in cinema. You know, I saw him I think first in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I imagine that's what a lot of people saw that made them go, God dang, this guy's pretty fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, Drax, his character was mainly just a big muscle bound idiot. And he played that to a T. But there was something about the way he played it, you know? Like, obviously, he got some really good one liners. That was lovely. But there is something wonderful about the deadpan way he played Drax as an idiot
Yeah.
that really got over with people. They're like, that's good. It worked in the dynamic of the rest of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Like he kind of stood out with the way he played that, which is good because you can't really compete with a lot of those guys.
Yeah, and it gave him a chance to kind of stretch his acting muscles a bit as well, because before that he was basically just playing big tough guys, like the strong silent type mostly. So that gave him the chance to actually show that he could act.
Yeah, and then after that he went into James Bond where he played the strong silent type.
Yeah.
I didn't like that James Bond.
No, I don't think anyone really liked that. I think it was Spectre,
Yeah,
and I think that whole movie just kind of failed, to put it
yeah.
bluntly.
It was ambitious, but it did not deliver on any of its ambitions.
No.
But they tried, and he was just like a quiet fucking killer in that really, you know.
Yeah, I don't think he had even like a single line of dialogue, but
Right, and that's what people would have expected from Batista before like Guardians. They would have been like, "Oh, here's a
yeah.
big fucking guy. He's just muscle and he doesn't say anything." But after Guardians, they're like, "Well, he's proven he's got the chops. He can do some stuff." And then they cast him as that guy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, "What the fuck?"
But it did lead to other stuff. Like he was really good in Blade Runner 2049 in like a very smallish role towards the beginning of the movie, where he does actually, do some acting there as well as like a replicant. I think that's what they're called. But as like the guy that Ryan, whatever his name is, Gosling's character is like trying to come and find and like kill. And yeah, it's like he gets to do a bit of both there. And he was in June as well, which just came out, and Army of the Dead as well, where he was basically the lead role in that. So
I don't think we have to talk about Army of the Dead. I think we've already discussed Army of the Dead and that whole debacle at WrestleMania Backlash. Yes, we've definitely covered that one at length. So, Batista, you were doing so well, and then, oh boy, you really fucked up with that one. Why didn't you give Vince McMahon a golden egg?
Yeah, missed opportunity.
That's how you do a tie-in with the WWE. Not zombies. Give him a golden egg. He loves that egg. Loves it. I reckon this WrestleMania is gonna be Roman Reigns versus that egg.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I love that egg. I cannot believe that fucking happened. It's been a source of like constant entertainment for me for the last couple of weeks. It's just the idea of Vince McMahon go. This is the great. Everybody's gonna love this angle. It's an egg.
Well,
That's all it is.
The first egg angle went over so well at Survivor Series 30 years ago that why not bring the egg back but make it golden this time?
He's determined to get that fucking egg over.
He must really love eggs.
Yeah, he's like, the people need to see the egg. It's a great idea, the egg.
God Maybe Lord, that explains why Vince has got like asphyxiation with fart humor as well.
Maybe.
eggs are, they famously do stink pretty bad when they come out the other end.
And he's
Well,
always getting people to kiss his ass.
yeah, there you go.
And it's because it's all like eggs. It smells like eggs up there. And he's like, this is hilarious. What do you think of this, JR? Eggs. JR's like, I get it. I get it, Vince. Please.
You like eggs.
You have to stop. You really have to stop. Can't imagine why JR would ever want to leave that company.
Yeah. Speaking of JR, he was in movies as well, or a movie at least. He was in Man on the Moon, the one about what's his name?
Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman, yeah.
Well, King would have been in that, right?
Yeah, playing himself.
Yeah. So there you go. It's been a long, long time since I've seen that film. But I love that film.
Yeah, it does definitely hold up still.
Yeah. But I think mainly because of how interesting Andy Kaufman was himself.
Yeah.
You've probably heard the stories of Jim Carrey on the set for that, right?
Oh yeah, he was a nightmare.
Yeah. And like that's a shame because it feels like from what you hear about Jim Carrey on that set, especially like stuff that the King himself has said about having worked with Andy Kaufman originally and then working with Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman, is that Jim Carrey didn't seem to get it at all. He thought he did. He thought he was like channeling Andy Kaufman, but that's not what Andy Kaufman was. Like he didn't get any of it, you know?
Yeah.
Which was a real shame because I like Jim Carrey and I think he's a smart dude, but I feel like that was a misstep on his part.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody hasn't heard this stuff, like there are plenty of stories like this. Go and listen to the King, Jerry Lawler talking about this, the behind the scenes stuff on the Man on the Moon film. It's really interesting. The way he talks about Jim Carrey and the way he talks so affectionately about Andy Kaufman as well. It was really sweet, you know, because they got on like a fucking house on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That shit with them, those two together was just, it was money.
Yeah, man.
You know, and the King and Andy and Jim Carrey together, not so much money. They give it significantly less money, but at least he tried.
Yeah, you can say that.
He tried. So we're still kind of in the Attitude Era again, and I've got a name for you. One of the most famous names in the Attitude Era, and we've named some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Ready? Here's a real famous name from the Attitude Era who went on to star in some films with some pretty high profile guys.
Okay.
Who do you think I'm talking about?
I don't know. The only person I can think of maybe is Kevin Nash.
Not Kevin Nash. We'll get to him in a second. Of course, it is another K though. I'm of course talking about Kurgan.
Of course, yeah. Kurgan has carved out a pretty decent career for himself as like a movie henchman.
Yeah, and you get one of the biggest stars of the Attitude Era. He was like 7 foot tall, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Technically, you are correct. Yeah.
Ew, I did it. I fooled everybody. But he was in that Sherlock Holmes film.
Mm-hmm.
With Robert Downey Jr. Apparently, he punched Robert Downey Jr. in the face.
That's probably not a good idea if you want to get a
like,
career in Hollywood.
Exactly, especially for a wrestler who, you know, is supposed to be able to know how to pull his punches and make them look real. But I think he really like knocked out Robert Downey Jr. at some point. And you're like, out of all the people to knock, especially at that time, you know, because Downey was just riding the wave of Iron Man. And there was like a second wave of his career. He's like, we're firing all cylinders now. Here we go. And then fucking Kurgan punches him in the face. You're like, it's not a good move, sir. And then, you know, where has he been since then?
I don't think he was in the sequel, so.
Exactly. Robert Downey Jr. used his power to cut Kurgan out of Hollywood forever. And I will not stand for this. It's ridiculous. Kurgan's the best part of that. Yeah, I mean, you've seen that film, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of that film?
I mean, it's all right in a sort of trying to do it in a kind of action-packed Pirates of the Caribbean style way, I guess, in terms of like the plot just zips along and yeah, it's all right. It's not really what I'd say, as one of my favorite movies or anything, but
Right.
there's a bit shocking when they made a sequel, and I think there's a third one planned and supposedly coming out at some point in the future as well, which is even more baffling. But hey ho,
Why is there a third one? They left a big gap between the second one and the third one.
yeah, I know.
Is the first one the one where they do this weird gag where Sherlock Holmes, bye bye, Robert Downey Jr., like blends in with the wallpaper in rooms?
Uh,
You remember this? Because I remember watching this. I'm like, that's the stupidest fucking thing. He would just like wear a suit that looks like wallpaper and then stand by a wall and
I
look like
can't remember.
it would look like it blends in. Like camera wise, it would look like it blends in, right?
Mm.
But if you were in the room, you would be able to see the part of the wall is suddenly 3D. You know, like
Yeah.
as a spy, I don't think that that's a good way to do it. And that's just me. You know, maybe that's where I'm going wrong. Robert Downey Jr. knows more about being a spy because, of course, Sherlock Holmes famous for being a spy.
More of a detective.
Exactly. So what the fuck is he doing? Anyway, we can't. I mean, that it's hardly like the Robert Downey Jr. film is really going to be, accurate to the book.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit extravagant, a little bit wacky, a little bit Hollywood. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about Kevin Nash a little bit, right? He was Super Shredder.
Yeah, he was.
Was that in the first one or the second one?
That was the second one, The Secret of the Ooze, where basically got beat up by the turtles. So he was like, I'm going to use this mutagen on myself then. And then he turns into the Super Shredder and then hilariously, like, brings down a pier on top of himself. And that's how he dies.
Hey, man, we've all been there.
I mean, have we?
No, that doesn't seem like a very good way to kill the turtles.
No, I mean, maybe he was just out of his mind because the mutagen had kind of turned him into this animalistic, beast.
Hmm. Well, speaking of an animalistic beast, Kevin Nash was also in Magic Mike.
He was, as I think his character is called Tarzan.
Have you seen that film?
I did watch it this year. I watched that and the sequel because I'd never seen it before. And
Yeah.
you know what? It was all right if you can get past all the dancing.
Which I assume you got past.
Yeah. But like they're pretty funny in places, and there's like a good core to the story and stuff as well. And I thought Kevin Nash was actually really good in I think it was the second one where he had more to do and kind of even though he was more broken down then, like he pretty much didn't dance at all in the second one and essentially became like the sort of manager of the strippers.
Yeah.
But yeah, he displays a lot of personality in like what's essentially just a small role, really.
Well, that's nice. I haven't seen any of them, but Kevin Nash is he's a surprisingly good actor, I think.
Yeah, he's got that natural charisma about him, really. That
Yeah,
laid back kind of cool.
exactly. If that's what we were saying earlier about like Roman Reigns, Kevin Nash wouldn't do well in every situation, but
Mm,
that's written just perfectly for him. He can do that, and
yeah.
he'd be great at it. So that makes sense. But he wouldn't be good at like he wouldn't have been good as Drax.
No.
It's a different character, but he works perfectly as that Magic Mike guy, you know?
I don't think he'd be good in like a sort of big action role or anything as well, because
No.
obviously he's not the most mobile of
Yeah, I know.
people.
Yeah, he's not like jumping out a window or anything like that. You know,
Yeah.
like you see him like walk towards the window, and then his stunt double, who's like 2 feet shorter than him, like jumps out
Uh,
the window. You're like, I think I can crack this code. I don't think that was Kevin Nash at all. I'm suspicious. Well, I want to backtrack 1 second
mm-hmm.
to the Turtles
Okay.
again, because not the old, not the '90s Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go to the 2000 and something Turtles,
Oh yeah.
because there was a wrestler in that film. Our
Indeed.
our good friend Sheamus.
It's Bebop.
Was he Bebop or was he Rocksteady?
I thought he was Bebop. Oh, I might be wrong. No, yeah, I think he was Rocksteady actually. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was Stevie's dad from Malcolm in the Middle who was Bebop.
Yes, Gary Anthony Williams.
I think that's right.
I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna say that that's correct, and fingers crossed that I got that one right. But yeah, he was Bebop, and then Sheamus was Rocksteady.
Mm.
I didn't. I was surprised at both of them.
Yeah.
I didn't think that the guy who played Bebop would be, because I'm like, he doesn't look like an action guy.
No, no.
But then again, most of the stuff he had to do was motion captured. So he seemed to play him pretty well. Sheamus did a fine job.
Yeah, I thought he fit the part pretty well and kind of got the like cartoony nature of the role too. So
Yeah, I thought so. I'm like, hey, John Cena, you got some fucking competition. We got Sheamus over here. This guy, he's gonna be bigger than Hulk Hogan
uh,
in films. I mean,
oh yeah, of course.
maybe not in wrestling. Well, I don't know. How many world championships has Sheamus got? 4?
He must have about 4, I think.
I think. And then how many did Hogan have in the WWF? 6?
Probably 5 or 6. Yeah,
Catching him.
yeah.
Hell
He's
yeah.
still got time.
Yep. Sheamus could do it. Let's have a remake of Thunder in Paradise with Sheamus driving the boat or whatever the fuck. Did they drive a boat?
I think so.
I feel like it was a boat. There was some kind of vehicle involved, right? I think.
Yeah, I think it was sort of like it wasn't like a robot boat, like a Knight Rider type boat,
No.
though, was it?
What the fuck was that show about?
I'm pretty sure they were just like police detectives who like looked after the beach or something. So it was like Baywatch, but you know,
Oh
surely
no, there's drug dealers at our beach again.
again. And this one looks like Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Whoa, those drug dealers look like the Nazi boys. Oh man, that's funny. Thunder in Paradise. I didn't think that would be as funny as it was. What was the film? Was it a film or was it an episode of Thunder in Paradise? But there's a clip of it online. I don't remember if we talked about this. There's a clip online of like Hulk Hogan driving a motorbike. Have you seen it?
That's Mr. Nanny, I
Is it
think.
Mr. Nani?
Where there's like a random guy throwing a dog into a river.
Dog into the river.
And apparently no one picked that up when they were editing that movie because no one cared about that movie.
That's unbelievable. Why? Where were they filming that? Where a guy was throwing a dog in the river? What?
Yeah.
That's insane. Mr. Nani, we're gonna have to sit and watch. We're gonna bring back the watch-alongs, and we're gonna watch Mr. Nani. How does that sound?
It sounds awful, but
Yes.
yeah, I'm there for it.
We gotta, do what the people want us to do. And do the people want us to do this? Probably not. So
Yeah.
probably won't do it. Hey, if people write in and leave comments, and if enough people leave comments for us to do it, then we'll do it. But it has to be an awful lot of people. 100 people. Is that a lot?
That's way too much. Yeah. I'd be happy if it was just 5 people.
boy, 5 people would be an increase, a significant increase. But that's why I'm setting the bar so high to 100 that I'm like, now we don't have to. We're not gonna get 100 people.
We're not going to
Now,
get 5, so.
yeah, but now we're definitely safe. Now we definitely don't have to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So, I tell you what. Here's one. This is kind of topical because there's a new Spider-Man film coming out soon.
There sure is. Got my ticket already.
Me too. Me too. And I tell you who's not going to be in it, unfortunately, is Randy Savage.
Indeed. Old Bonesaw McGraw.
Oh, yeah. He was in the original in what you could argue was a scene-stealing role.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Spider-Man, of course, in his original incarnation, when he got his
the human spider.
Yes, he instead of becoming a superhero, he became a wrestler, a fighter, and he performed because he had all this strength and stuff. And that's his origin story. Some guy was robbing the wrestling crew, I guess, and Spider-Man didn't stop him. Spider-Man let the robber go by, and then that robber killed his Uncle Ben.
Ah.
I've told you this backstory so that now every single Spider-Man film doesn't have to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sick to death of seeing Uncle Ben dying again. I'm like, we get it. Good God, man.
Yeah.
Start at a different point,
And to be fair, they did with this latest incarnation, so
That is true.
Kudos to them.
Yes, that's good. But these films have been really good so far.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool as well that they factored in the whole wrestling origin into that version of Spider-Man as well. Because I guess it came out in when was it, like 2001? Was that movie?
I think it was either 2001 or 2002, right?
Yeah, so that was right around sort of wrestling's peak popularity as well.
Yeah.
So I guess it made sense to kind of jump on that bandwagon and get one of the biggest wrestling stars of all time involved as the guy that Spider-Man fights as well. So yeah, It definitely worked.
Exactly. I think it totally makes sense. And of course, Randy Savage did a really good job.
Hell yeah.
Like he played the role of a wrestler to perfection.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like he was pretty much playing just himself, but if he was called Bonesaw McGraw instead of Macho Man Randy Savage, but stick with what you know.
What do you think is a cooler name, Randy Savage or Bonesaw McGraw?
I mean, it's got to be Bonesaw McGraw.
It does have an interesting ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This sounds pretty like rawr,
Exactly, more threatening than the Macho Man.
Yeah, I always thought Macho Man seemed a little, it reminded me of that song, and that song, unfortunately, is not the most like. you know what I'm talking about. It's not.
Yeah, it's not intimidating or anything.
No, exactly. It's not intimidating. So that's sometimes what I thought of when I heard Randy Savage, which is a shame because Randy Savage, Savage is a great name.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, I don't know. But regardless. So there we go. Is there any other films you want to
mention? Yes, there's some more of Hulk Hogan's enemies that have popped up in movies over the years, which have been pretty noteworthy. Like, obviously, Andre the Giant was the friendly giant Fezzik in The Princess Bride.
Right, yes.
Where, he is like a huge part of a lot of people's childhoods and stuff. And so, obviously, holds like a dear place in a lot of people's hearts.
Yes.
But it was, it was right around the time where he started having all those health issues as well. So there was like an interview with Robin Wright, who was the princess in that movie, and she was basically saying like there was a scene where Andre the Giant's character was supposed to catch her, but because his back was in such a bad way at that point, he physically couldn't do it. And this is like Andre the Giant, one of the biggest, strongest dudes on the planet, basically. But he was that beaten up and that rough a state that they had to like put cables on Robin Wright to kind of gently sort of place her in Andre's arms so he could like do the stunt. So it's kind of, you know, a bit sad that he's in that sort of pain, even doing something like that, and it makes you wonder, like compared to being in the ring as well, where he'd still wrestle for another like 3 or 4 years after this, like what he was putting his body through. It's a bit of a sad one, really, when you think about it. But he was still, you know, obviously a lot of fun in that movie.
Yeah, everybody remembers him in that film. But then also, that was a great film.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really, really good film. You know, that's one that still holds up.
Yeah,
And Andre the Giant's a lot of fun in that one.
absolutely.
That was a good one. I can't believe I forgot that one. You know, what were there any other Hulk Hogan
Well,
adversaries?
the only one that I think we really should have talked about already is Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Oh yeah.
Because, man, he has been in some movies. Not all of them are very good, but I mean,
But he's been in them.
yeah, and some of them have been fantastic as well. Like They Live,
Yes.
which is an absolute classic, and my John Carpenter is just one of my favorite movie makers anyway. But Roddy Piper is amazing in this, and obviously utters the iconic line about coming here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and he's all out of bubblegum. And there's like the famous like 6 minute alley fight with Keith David, like just where they're beating the crap out of each other, and it feels like it's never going to stop. But yeah, it's just like a really kind of subversive movie as well, like kind of you know, taking a bit of an attack on consumerism and all that kind of thing. And it's really cool.
Yes. I was thinking about that one earlier. I'm like, we gotta talk about that, and I can't believe I forgot about it. But we did talk about this, you know, Mr. Narnia at length.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But you did mention that he's been in some other films.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've seen Hell Comes to Frogtown. It's basically like a post-apocalyptic movie where radiation has kind of devastated a lot of America, and like the population is dwindling, and like most men are sterile. But they find out that Rowdy Roddy Piper's got like this super virile spunk, which makes him like a very valuable person. And so all these mutants in the aforementioned Frogtown kind of want to bring him in so he can, I guess, mate with their mutant ladies and create more frog spawn or something. I don't know.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say it's the greatest movie of all time, because it isn't. But it's kind of the sort of dumb 80s fun that you know, it's good to just sit down and switch your brain off for 90 minutes.
You know, I'm going to take your word for it. Although I am intrigued. I must say I am intrigued, but I think I might give that one a pass.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Any other films you want to talk about? Jesse Ventura. We should mention Jesse Ventura, right?
Definitely. He's been in like a holy trinity of Arnie movies as well. He was the Running Man. He was Captain Freedom in that. The guy who basically refuses to get in the like deathmatch arena and fight Arnie's character. But I guess Predator is the one which everyone remembers him for, because
yes,
he was a goddamn sexual tyrannosaur who ain't got time to bleed. So, you know,
Oh dear.
yeah, I mean, both The Running Man and Predator are amazing movies. Like, I watched Predator again this year, and it still holds up as just like a balls to the wall action movie.
Yes. That's one that I haven't seen in such a long time, but I wouldn't mind seeing that one again.
Do you know what the third movie is that he did with Arnie?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I believe it was Batman and Robin.
It was. As like a prison guard who basically falls under Poison Ivy's spell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not quite as
That's
higher
fun.
level as the other ones.
Although if Corey's listening to this, which he might be, he
Hmm.
loves that film.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm not gonna diss the movie because I'm a big fan of all the Batman movies, especially those first four.
Mm.
Like even as bad as they get, they're not that bad really. And this one has so many cheesy quips in it that good grief.
Well, I,
It's
I think that's why I like that I love the first two.
mm-hmm.
And the third one is like it's bad, but I still like it.
Yeah.
You can still enjoy it. But Batman and Robin just it it's too bad for me. There's
Yeah.
just shit that happened to like I can't. Like all the ice puns killed me.
I loved them.
I couldn't stand them. It was too much. I'm like, no, this is so bad. You know, no, I couldn't. I mean, I thought that was interesting casting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the whole film was just kind of like really campy and played for laughs and stuff. And I'm like, it just wasn't my kind of thing.
No, I can understand that. I mean, compared to what came before as well, like you
Yeah.
look at the Tim Burton movies, which were sort of very serious and dark and that kind of thing.
But like, I love
Um,
the Tim Burton ones because Michael Keaton's my favorite Batman.
mm-hmm.
I love those films, and even they were like they could be silly at times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The second one was there were parts where you're like, he's real. The penguins really just got an army of penguins. You know what I mean? He's
Yep.
pretty on the nose right there, but they shoot rockets and shit. you know, what the fuck? But like, but there's still like so much of that film where you're like, I love it. Like there's a
Mm,
bit where fucking Batman, Michael Keaton, like scratches a hard drive like a vinyl record.
yeah.
You're like, what? What the fuck? But still, it's like it's a fun. It's fun without being too silly.
Yeah.
And I thought Batman and Robin was a little too silly, in my opinion.
Well, fair
Although
enough.
Batman, what was it? The other one, Batman Forever. Is that the Jim Carrey one?
Yes.
I mean, it gets pretty close to silly time. Like it's the I think that the strange thing about that one was that you had Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey, but then you had Tommy Lee Jones being Jim Carrey.
Yeah, yeah, that's
What
right.
was that about? I didn't get that at all. That's why wasn't Tommy Lee Jones like playing it straight?
Mm-hmm.
Don't I thought that was weird. Anyway, that's now we're getting onto a whole other thing. We're getting onto the Batman podcast, which is a totally different show. But I think we should wrap this up pretty soon. Are there any other wrestlers slash film stars you want to mention real quick?
Not really. I mean, Georgie Animal Steel is pretty
Oh,
much the last one I wanted to
in
kind
Ed
of talk
Ed
about.
Wood?
Yeah, well he
Yes.
was actually playing another ex-wrestler who became an actor called Tor Johnson.
Yes.
But yeah, like he's well, first of all, he looks exactly like this real life Tor
Yes.
Johnson. It's quite scary, in fact. But I mean, Ed Wood is just a great movie as well, and another Tim Burton movie.
That's one of those films. Like out of all the films we've talked about today, where I'm like, I should go back and watch them. I think that Ed Wood is one I might be, the one I want to go back and watch the most because it's been a long time since I've seen that film, and good, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And it's bizarre to think like it's kind of based on real life as well. Like there
Yes.
was an actual Ed Wood who made these terrible movies, but made them with so much like earnestness and like poured so much of himself into them that even as bad as they are, you kind of can't help but find some joy in them.
Yeah, there's a sweetness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird because people enjoyed the films anyway just because of how shite they were. Like people love Plan 9 from Outer Space because it's awful.
Yeah.
But they love that kind of, like, they love the fact that it's awful. So that to go that extra mile and go, to love the director as well and his madness, but his sweet intentions. He just wanted to make films.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great film. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So anybody listening to this, we've talked about wrestlers and films, but we've also given you some good film recommendations
Oh, absolutely.
to go watch. There's some really good stuff. What the fuck was that Frogtown one?
Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Hell Comes to Frogtown. So if you're at all interested in how intriguing that film sounds, you're gonna have no choice but to go check it out.
It was on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if it still is.
Can't imagine why they would take it down.
Yeah. But if it is, yeah, go check it out.
Yes, go check it out. And go check out all the other films that we suggested as well. Some of them are really good. Go check out Ed Wood first.
Yes.
Or Predator. Or Princess Bride.
Mm-hmm.
Those are pretty good. Or the Rocky films without Hulk Hogan in them. Poor Hulk Hogan. He really hasn't done very good in this.
No, well, it says him right for being in so many shit movies.
That is also true, and he seems to have done okay for himself. He's got a big mansion.
Yeah, I guess.
And probably some other shit too. Although, again, he made a lot of that money from WCW.
Yeah, I think he's probably been living off that more than his Santa with Muscles earnings.
Did you see somewhere like someone had leaked like Hulk Hogan's contract from like 1998?
All right.
It was 1998. It's ridiculous. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. He took them to the fucking cleaners.
Yeah.
I wonder why WCW went out of business,
Yeah.
And if he got half of the shit that he got in WCW from TNA when he went there, then you can see why they're in the shits too. You know what I mean? Like, it was that. We'll have to maybe we'll do that in a different episode. That would be worth looking through. It was crazy if I could find it. But yes, we're done talking about Hulk Hogan for now. Although we'll be back talking about him soon.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the episode. Go check out some of these films starring wrestlers. You might be surprised at how good some of the wrestlers are at acting. And not surprised by some of the other ones,
Yeah.
That's something for you guys to do. We are going to be back next week with another episode. It's going to be really, really good. You don't want to miss it. So stay subscribed so that you never miss an episode. And comment if you want to see us watch that film. I've already forgotten what film we were supposed to watch.
I forgot as well.
Yeah. Oh, was it the Mr. Nanny where he kicks a dog into the river?
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Well, remember, we need 100 people before we can do that. So we look forward to hearing all your comments. But until that happens, which will be never, we will see you guys in the next episode. So thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Arr. Bam.